Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Aislyn's World on Thursday, July 1st. Here we are kicking off the July season. Are we ready for it? You guys getting ready for the July Independence Day celebrations a lot of us will be participating in over the next weekend as it comes up? I, of course, am out in my garden, out at the farm, Freedom Harvest Farms. I'm out in one of my two big market gardens that I work in. And I've been thinking a lot in this past week's episode of Dinner Table Talks. That's the podcast that Joe and I do. I spent a lot of time, we did a thing called the Magical Mystery Tour. And we call it Magical Mystery Tour 2.0 because it's something we discussed an entire year ago. I hope you guys will go and check it out if you haven't. It's dinnertabletalks.com, and on that website you can then go to whichever place that you might listen to a podcast. So if you use Spotify, or if you use Google Play, or if you use Apple, whatever you use, it's going to be available for you to use it. Now, if you're not a traditional podcast listener, and you just want to check out what I'm up to, what I'm talking about, you can actually just click on it right there from the website, and it will take you directly to the podcast, and you can listen there as well. Now, the reason I brought that up is because I speak very much about this concept of creating space and how it fits into my entire understanding of the space and time that I'm in currently, and that we are as a society in as well. And it had me really thinking about what does it mean to create space for things. I've been spending a lot of time thinking about that. As I understand consciousness, it is happening all around us. And particles and atoms and all of the things that create the things like this pretty flower petal here, or actually this is one that's not even bloomed or opened yet, that make it up, there's space in between the particles that are creating this matter that we have here. There's space in the particles that are creating me, my matter. And so if that's the case, then you can't simply say that the space between the particles is nothing, because it's space. That's what it is. And we have more so often use the term space to refer to something that happens beyond our atmosphere. But space is everything that's around us. So around me, this is space, right? There's some space around me. And if that's the truth, then this space, we know, even here as I move my hand through the air, I'm leaving behind an energetic path where my hand was, that I'm not moving around in nothing. I'm moving around in space. So if that's the case, what do I begin creating space for? And as I'm sitting out here in the garden, it really got me thinking about an opportunity to really dive a little deeper into this for any folks that are interested in kind of hearing what I have to say about that. Because this time of year in South Texas, in other parts of the world too, but particularly in South Texas, that's the area of growing that I know. And we're in July in the United States of America. We are in the month of July, which for us is a warmest month of the year, that kind of situation, depending on where you're at. We begin creating space for production. Now, we sometimes will go in and just completely clean out the garden, just leave it completely bare. But then what I would consider kind of when we're talking about ourselves and our space and our desires and our own person, our own desires around us, we put our gardens to sleep, or we let the gardens go to sleep. And in the midst of that, because we've opened it up and left it bare, our gardens, we have left space for earth and nature to fill the void, because that's what happens on earth, is that we create matter. It's a huge part. There is no other explanation for why we are here doing what we do. We are here to be a perspective of the I Am. We are here to be a perspective of God. And in the midst of that, we are creating matter all around us. in the space that we are in, right? And so if we pull up our gardens and we dig up our gardens and we create bare fields or bare gardens or whatever, earth, because it only knows how to do one thing, and that is fill the space, that it's going to then begin filling the spaces with the growth of weeds and plants and, you know, all of the things that you can see around me. Like, you can look back here and you can see, right, I've got a lot of weeds in here, okay? So what I've been doing is going along through here. Now you can see where the weeds, popping the weeds out, and I'm creating space. I'm opening up opportunities for things to grow. But if I'm not intentional about embodying what I actually want to grow in that space, then things that grow there that I don't necessarily want growing in that space. And if I don't create space for the next seeds that are planted, for the, let's see, I'm going to pull a calendula. These are some dried calendula seeds, right? I've created some space right here by pulling the weeds out. So I'm going to take this particle. Hi, Caroline. I'm going to take these particles and I'm going to place them in this space over here. And I have created or begun the creation or planted the seeds of a desire, which is to have more beautiful calendula flowers growing right there. That's what I desire. Not only do I desire it, but I embodied it enough to actually do it again. Pop up some seeds, plant an idea in a space that I've created in my, I like to call it mathematical soup that's happening all around me. So I've been thinking about this concept a lot. Let's see, trying to listen while clearing brush for pickup. Yes, I noticed that a lot of people are putting their brush out on their curb right now. And I'm real adamant about keeping our brush on our property because I think that's an important part of us putting the matter that we want on our land in the space that we're in on our land, so that our land has the ability to then take it back in, create more nutrition, and then be more productive around us. But I think that can be pretty challenging for sometimes for folks that don't really know what to do with a lot of matter in their spaces. And oftentimes we've been conditioned to fill our spaces in a way that we are told it has to look a certain way. We have to do it in a certain way. We can only create spaces for what we've been told we're allowed to create spaces for, things like that. And so what ends up happening a lot of time, I've been thinking about this as it relates to keeping my house, because how can I desire to have a different kind of a bed or mattress or whatever the thing I'm looking for, car for that matter. How can I embody and create the thing that I desire if I've not created any space for it to arrive? So no matter how much I embody my desires to have that thing, if I haven't made a space for it to come in, like if I haven't made a space for the seed that I have planted to have room to grow and expand and fill the space that I've created for it, then it can't arrive. It'll die. It may try to get to me, because that's the thing about like these concepts of bringing matter to us or manifestation or whatever. It's gonna seep in to us through the path of least resistance. So if you think about, like, that's the thing about me and the way that I communicate with people. It's like, for me, it comes from I've embodied it and learned it in a space by being able to look at it in nature, being able to look at it in the garden, and being able to understand that a plant is going to find the path of least resistance to reach up to the sun to the quickest possible way that it can. But if you haven't created any space at all for it to embody its growth and to grow and to create this over there. Okay, there we go. We're back on. If I have not created space for that to really grow and embody, I keep watching the butterflies fly by, and I will tell you without any doubt in my mind, I have created space for butterflies to exist in my world. I've created space for them to come in. I've created space for them to make babies. I have created space for them to plant seeds. I have created space for them to exist. In fact, look right there. Do you see that? That's what I'm looking at right now in my life. Okay? And so this concept today, what happens a lot of times, and when we take our gardens down to the bare minimum, and I'm not speaking necessarily about gardens, I'm speaking about our spaces, but this is stuff you can put into your actual tactical, physical gardening concept as well. But if I take down my entire garden and I let it go to sleep, as if I was asleep in this mathematical soup, in this perspective of God, in this perspective of I am. If I am simply asleep, then what's going to happen around me is all of the things that happen on this earth and in this life. Okay? What's going to happen around me is I'm going to move when weather happens. Disease is going to be created around me. Toxicity is going to grow around me. Things I don't desire are going to grow around me. All kinds of things are going to grow around me because I've stripped myself down bare to nothing and gone to sleep. Which, for a human, the good news is it's pretty much impossible to strip ourselves down to nothing. However, that when you do, you start getting into a better understanding of what your consciousness will allow. But rather than stripping yourself down and then going to sleep, you strip yourself down and then recognize that you can never go to sleep and you are always awake and you are constantly creating and filling the space around you, or opening up the space around you to embody and to allow, through the path of least resistance, the thing that you desire to come directly to you. And that's really, really easy for me to understand and embody as I sit out here in the garden and look at what I have created by planting seeds. To look at what I have created by creating space for what I desire. I can look around behind me. I can look around and see what types of things have I created space for? What have I left growing? And at what point do I begin to go, oh my goodness, I've got something growing here that I don't want growing here. I need to get in here and get rid of the things that I don't want so that I can make space for the things that I do want. And this time of year in the garden is time for us to, especially after we've had, I'm going to use rain as an example, and I've been very, very connected to this concept that water is very, very, very important. It is the most important piece of matter beyond just literally the human existence that we are. It's the very most important piece of matter because it helps things move easier. We move more fluidly when we've got water, right? So when it's been raining and raining and raining, rather than cursing the rain that I don't have a lot of control over, although I have more control over rain than I give myself credit for, because I am a perspective of the I am, God, right? But in the midst of life and challenges and all of the things that are happening, and the rain is coming down and the rain is coming down and the rain is coming down, I now have room with ease, with greater ease and fluidity to make space around me, to make space to get rid of the things I don't want so that I can then put in the things that I do want. And yet again, the water helps those things come to life, helps those things germinate, helps those ideas to begin to flow fluidly into the next thing that I desire in my life. What is it that I want, right? I can't have the things I desire if there's no room for them. And I think about this a lot when it comes to my house and the desire that we have, not the desire, well, it is a desire, but that we're moving out to the farm, and that I often have been, I'm a very sustainable, resilient, sometimes people would call me a frugal type of person. So I keep things. I find that everything has a resource. But as I'm looking around at the things that I've kept, and this has me going back to kind of the Marie Kondo concept, although I didn't really follow any of her stuff, in all honesty. I didn't read her book, I didn't watch her show, I didn't do any of that because I don't tend to be a trend follower. But just based on what little bit of information that I understand about that, she's basically teaching you to tap into something that you own, touch it, feel it, and decide whether it actually is there intentionally, whether it brings you joy, bliss, happiness, whether it's what you desire. Do you actually want this thing that you've created around you in your space? Or is it garbage that it's time to get rid of so that you can make space for more things? Or is it something that you're holding on to because you fear that you will never have the money to replace it? Then you're creating a lack mentality within yourself by holding on to all of the resources that you just are afraid to let go of because you might not have anything to replace it with next time, which then just creates this stacks and stacks and stacks of things around you that are just everywhere. And they start encroaching on your space. And before too long, you're sitting in a hovel and you're on a TV show about hoarders because you've just kept everything. You've just kept it all, and you've never let go of anything. You've never let go. And for some of us old souls and that have lived a lot of lives and have a lot of ancestors and have a lot of lineage on this earth and on this planet, we've been holding on to a lot of karmic history and garbage that just doesn't even exist anymore. It just doesn't even exist anymore. And we were coded and taught to hold on to things, to hold them because they're ours. And I talked last week about the labels. It's mine. That's mine. If I hold on to that thing in my space, then I matter. And if I don't hold on to those things, I won't have enough to matter. Right? So that's really all I wanted to talk about today. I came out on Thursday. I was going to try to get it to you guys on Wednesday. It just doesn't seem to always happen. Wednesdays seem to be a very busy day, so it's Thursday again. But I wanted to also say that I've also created space for something else to begin happening in my life. And that is that this evening, around 6 p.m., you'll see a live go up on my, it'll be on my Aislynn Campbell business page. Okay, and it'll be my community gardens. And today I'm going to be doing it with Leo Ruiz, who's a good friend of mine. We've known each other for about 7 years. He was the first president of Grow Local South Texas, and he's going to show me what he's learned in the recent past from his gardening experiences, from his planting experiences, and show us around his gardens and things like that, and just give us some experience that he's having in creating the space for doing exactly what he desires in life. And I can tell you, he's done a very good job of creating the space for exactly what he desires in life. You can tell that he has when you look around at his life. So I look forward to having a conversation with him this evening. It'll be around 6 p.m. It'll go live on the Aislynn Campbell business page. All right, that's really all I have for today. Thank you all so much for those of you that joined me. Thank you all so much to those of you that are catching this recorded. If you are watching this recording up on YouTube, I would love it so much. If you would please subscribe, like, comment. I'm getting better at understanding comments are coming in so that I can go back and actually comment back to people and talk to them on my YouTube channel. I'm really, really enjoying these concepts so much, and I appreciate your feedback because your feedback helps me know whether I'm creating a space for the things that we all desire as we begin to communicate with one another and we begin to resonate in the same spaces together. And if you're here with me, then we are resonating in the same space together. I love you all. I hope you have the best 4th of July weekend, celebratory weekend ever, and there, in my opinion, is nothing more